Good morning, one and all, and welcome. As it has been put to us, we are in a new age. A new age of what? We don't know. But it's certainly a new age of something. But yes, good morning, Catholic. Good morning to you. But yes, good morning to everyone joining us. Welcome, as always, to the Good Morning Walk. Things are going to get interesting. Things are going to get very, very interesting very, very quickly. But yes, I am very well this morning. Thank you very much for asking, as always. Thank you very much. P, good morning to you. Yeah, the UK is indeed truly doomed. The UK is indeed truly doomed. In more ways than one. And we'll be talking to that. Don't worry. We'll be talking about this in a moment. Oh. Train goes zooming past. But yes, who else was in it? Patrick, good morning to you from Dublin. Good morning to you. I'm actually going to be over in Dublin in a couple of weeks' time, actually. So we might, maybe, I don't know, have be having a good morning walk from Dublin in a couple of weeks' time. Who knows? Fox, good morning to you. Like I say, yeah, budget. Oh my. Oh me, oh my, oh me, oh my. Whew. Yeah, morning walk in Dublin would be nice. Yeah. I'll have to see where to go. That's the thing. Like I say, I've never been to it before, so I don't know where I'd sort of go for a walk. So we'll have to see. We'll find something out. We'll do something. Even if we just do, a quick live stream around, the Guinness factory, if they allow, of course, such a thing. I don't know if they do or not, but we'll see. Oh, we'll see. Like I say, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. But as you know, we've been sort of following the what's this? Phil, enough is enough day of action on the 1st of October. I wondered when they would start. I thought they would. I think they're going to kick into high gear. Enough. Enough is enough is going to kick into high gear, I think. Because what a call for action have they just had. What an absolute call for action they've just had from that budget. Talk about astounding. Generally talk about astounding. I'm raring to go and talking about the budget. I don't know if we should just launch into it now, or we'll wait for a bit. We'll wait for a bit. Let's go a couple of more people in. But yes, to help get more people in, please do remember to hit that like and share button. Like I say, it helps get more people in. Morning all, how to spend your 10 pence tax cut. So yes, indeed, we'll all be struggling to find where to spend that extra 10 pence thanks to good old Trussonomics. But yes, like I say, do remember to hit the like and share button on your way in. Share it on Facebook, share it on Twitter, share it where all good places to be shared can be found, etc., etc. But before we get into the budget, because that is going to dominate the rest of this conversation, don't worry. I think it's only fair to talk about Ukraine, and we have been on about that very recently, and like I said, I always said I would keep you sort of updated, sort of the ongoings. And of course, we've had Putin announce his big sort of mobilization plan. And here's the funny part. Here's the funny part. He said he's only going to mobilize sort of a few thousand. So that's the image he's put forward. However, if you know anything about this secret mobilization order, the number in the law has actually been kept secret. And Putin has actually been called out on it by other Western countries, saying that he's lying about the numbers that he's actually mobilizing. And when he was called out about it, I think the official response was, oh, that's not true. But if he wanted to disprove all these, Western countries and, disprove the West, then why not just show the number? Why not just show the number? And it gets even more interesting, the fact that there was a video going around, and I don't think it's the only video, of all these people in like this hall, and there's this military guy shouting at all these conscripts to stop whining because they're in the army now, and trying to assure them all that this is going to be a quick war. And if you've had a look at a lot of the economic stuff about Russia very recently, they've been really talking about the fact that if Russia wants to recruit all these extra troopers and give them all this, extra money and all this, extra status that they get from participating in this war, very quickly that becomes unsustainable in the long term. So even after this war, regardless of whatever happens, they've taken on such an expense, not a lot of people are even sure Russia can actually finance all of them. And you've already got issues of Russian soldiers not being paid. So, yeah, so much as we've seen very recently from the likes of Scott Ritter and the Duran calling Russia this super mobilized and professional army that is, super highly experienced and trained, and, the morale's high. And yeah, as always, our main topic of contention against any of those sort of pro-Russia guys is basically just look at the information going on the ground. Look at all the videos. Look at all the, intercepted messages that we're seeing. But anyway, yeah, that's just a quick update about that. On to why we're all here today. And it's not the ponies. For once, it's not the ponies. Oh, FSM, good morning to you. Yes, welcome to Tory Trickle Down Hell. Past news, hi, it's trickling down the back of my leg. Pretty Bird, greetings to you. Mithril, good morning to you as well. Cathal OG, good morning to you. So, yes, welcome. As we always say, we're getting more people in. Excellent, as always. Good. Welcome. Pile on in. Like I say, remember to hit the like button and the share button as you snuggle on in. Get your coffee. Hope you got some wellies on. No, not this morning. I don't know if you can. There you go. I've got my walking boots on. I've got my walking boots on. DJ, good morning. Good morning to you, DJ. But no, not got my wellies on today. Oh, but yes, things are interesting. Very interesting, because obviously we've had a bit of a policy blitz this week. First of all, we started off with Jacob Rees-Mogg announcing his big fracking campaign that he is unleashing, and the business support package that he's going to announce that, well, doesn't seem to have gone too down well, to say the least, as we've always been very, very worried about on this channel. I'm worried about the fact that SMEs and micro enterprises are getting the raw deal under this, because all these big international companies like Amazon are also getting in on this, and they don't need this extra help. They don't need it. So that was, I think, Wednesday. Or was it Tuesday? I can't remember now. And then you had Theresa Coffey stand up and give her 4-point plan to save the NHS, to which most of the doctors and nurses and industry bodies, once they'd heard this, have basically said, yeah, nothing you've said will actually help the situation. In fact, one of the bodies I saw said, if you really want to help the NHS long term, because we're suffering a massive staffing shortage, why not increase the numbers that can have access to funding to do medical courses, sort of, nursing and doctor courses, because they'd very recently cut back on these numbers massively. So if you think you wanted to help the NHS long term, maybe you would do something like that. Yeah, it's not going to provide any immediate, return, but long term, it will be actually quite helpful for the NHS. Did Theresa Coffey announce that? No. And don't get me wrong, I have no problem with people volunteering. I think people who volunteer, are fantastic. You give up your time, to go and do something, that you enjoy, that benefits other people. Fantastic. And there are hundreds of thousands of people out there who do go and volunteer. But for Theresa Coffey to suggest that volunteering will somehow help save the NHS, yeah. Needless to say, that announcement also went down like a lead balloon. And then, of course, we come to the budget. Oh my. Mithril, student nurses, doctors, etc. all should be exempt from student loans. Loans and tuition fees, and fees providing that they agree to work for a certain amount of time in the NHS. Again, you see, Mithril, there's ideas out there, and I've been saying this for years. There are ideas out there about how we could solve these problems, even from, right-wing leaning groups have been saying, well, we could do this to help the NHS. Now, you don't necessarily agree all the time with some of the stuff that gets put forward by some of these think tanks and groups. But it's kind of shocking that even then there is just this lack of ideas, lack of imagination to actually go in and engage with these ideas, even when they're coming from their own sector, their own corner. It boggles the mind to think that you don't engage with them and maybe take them up on those ideas. But yeah, that's the current Tory party. It's crazy. Good morning, Tom Nilsson. Good morning to you. Yeah, Cathology. Yeah, you're all right. Yeah, careful there, Mithil. You're talking too much sense. Hayes, late again. Just enjoying the fresh morning. Yep, indeed, very fresh. I don't know if you can. I don't know if it comes across on. There we go. I don't know if it comes across in the camera too much. But yes, you can definitely tell. It's a nice, lovely Yorkshire morning out over here as we talk about politics. So, one of the and then we come on to the budget. And one of the things that, actually, we need to go to the day before the budget. Because on the day of the budget, stamp duty was being cut. And I have a friend who's a solicitor, and she was complaining yesterday morning that they've had a ton of people either delay their purchase or stop handing over because they know now that if they wait a couple of months, stamp duty is going to be lower. So this has effectively frozen the housing market in a way. So even before the budget was announced, you already had a bit of an economic chaos going on in the housing market. So this was indeed, shall we say, a sign of things to come when it came to the budget. And of course, what did we get? Well, of course, we got the cut in stamp duty, the top rate of tax of 45% is now gone. Basically meaning that, the top earners, I think the top 10% earners are now in the region of like £40,000 better off. We got announcements of those, the special economic zones. I am still super worried about those because I think what is being put forward by those seems to be a very light version of chart. Oh, there we go. There we go. We're back. Connect. I don't know why. It's always, if we ever disconnect, it's always there. But yes, anyway, we're back, so don't worry. Yeah, pretty bird. I think we're back. Just letting me confirm. Edgy Tonga, you look horrible today. Well, yeah, when we've had the fiscal event of the year presented by Kersey Kutang, then yeah, can you blame me? I think there are a lot of people waking up today realizing the economic damage you know Kersey and Liz have done today. Because Cathlo G saying we're back, so excellent. We're back-ish. Slightly pixelated, but as long as you can hear me, that's fine. Like I say, one of the so yeah, we had tax cuts, stamp duties, the economic zones, which are going to be interesting when we get to see sort of the final nod of what those actually become and how those are going to work. Morning. So those are going to be interesting when we get those. If Theresa Coffee's your saver, we're all doomed. Bakura just got in a bit laggy, yeah. Does seem we're a bit laggy this morning, unfortunately. Patrick H, good morning to you. Such are the trials and tribulations when we do a good morning walk out in the sticks. So, all in all, this budget, as from a lot of people have said, doesn't really help, shall we say, the country as a whole. And even the markets reacted very badly. In fact, I think the very first time ever, immediately after the statement that the Chancellor gave, the pound lost 3%. 3%. The pound went down by 3%. That was the market's reaction to the budget. The IMF, I think, came out today, and said, yeah, nothing in this budget makes sense. So even the markets don't have confidence in this budget. We've got a big problem that a lot of, the Bank of England's put up in inflation. They've even said we've gone into a recession. And that's a very interesting thing at the moment, because no one in the government seems to be acknowledging the fact that the Bank of England has come forward and said, yeah, the UK is in a recession. I mean, you'd think as the Chancellor, you might want to maybe acknowledge such a thing. Oh, Paz News heading for parity with the dollar, under 110 yesterday. The pound is now only 1.9, so we're on the way. We're on the way to parity. And that's going to make the energy crisis even worse, because what do you buy gas and oil in? It's bought in dollars. So that's going to make the energy crisis even worse. Yeah, Bakura, you are right. Yeah, when the pound is plummeting that bad because of what the Chancellor said, you're in trouble. Exactly. And even economists, there wasn't a single economist that I could see yesterday who was like, oh yeah, what the Chancellor has announced is a good thing. There was not a single economist out there saying that, probably bar Patrick Minford. But this is the crazy stuff that's been putting through, and it's honestly, I am lost for words at what's been announced. But this, and I shared yesterday on the channel, the comment of Preston. And for those of you who don't know who he is, he's the he's like the political bigwig over at ITV. He hosts a lot of the political shows over there. Yeah, but your dad's a retired tax consultant. He's astonished. Yeah, exactly. No one can understand why they've done this. Nothing they've done makes any sense. And Preston, I think, has probably come closest to what I feel might be the best way to sum this up. And let me try and remember what he said now. So you'll forgive me if I don't get it 100% right. But he said, this entire budget is what Brexit was all truly about. All the Brexiteers have been, agitating and saying, this isn't proper Brexit. We've got all these, quote, advantages to do. And, we can change our fiscal system once we're out of the EU. Well, now we have. And the fact that we've now got all these all these Brexiteers in charge properly, all these, quote, true Brexiteers, not these fake Brexiteers that we've apparently had for the last 6 years. Go figure, but there you go. They are now desperate to prove that this is Brexit, that Brexit is working. And I think he's right. And he also said, we might, maybe next summer, who knows, maybe next autumn, we might get a general election, depending on how the economic situation is. Just have a quick swan check in, because the likelihood is it might be the last time we see these guys. Just as you can see, you'd normally see the parents around here with them, but they've seemed to have disappeared for the past couple of days. So it seems to me that they've now left sort of their offspring to start fending for themselves and to start flying off. And it does appear that a couple of them have started to do that. But it seems that these have so far been left behind, but they have been decreasing in number. So it does look that these guys now, as you can see, the feathers are starting to more turn white. So it does seem to me that this might be maybe the last good morning walk we see these cygnets on. So that might be the last time we see these swans for some time. So I thought it'd be fair enough today to give them a quick send-off, as they say. Oh, morning. I'll let you come past. I think this will be maybe the last time we have some good...
Yeah, they're beautiful.
Yeah, pretty bird cygnet's gone wild. So, yeah, where were we? Budget, that's it. So there's no economist out there saying this, and even the markets have been reacting badly. So the pound lost 3%. And as we've just heard today, it's even lower than it was yesterday. That's not a good sign. But also, the other sign is something called gelts, or gilts. I can't remember sort of the proper technical term for them now. But essentially that is what you buy, where you are buying government debt. And you buy government debt in the expectation that the government will repay it. Very often, this is what happens in the form of loans and things like that, so the government can have more money. But even these are being sold off, which is a really bad sign, because you're now got an expectation from these selling off that a lot of people are basically saying, yeah, we don't think that that the government's going to be able to repay their debt, so we're trying to get rid of these as quickly as possible, essentially. And that also creates a further problem in the fact that these very often dictate how, shall we say, expensive borrowing is to the government. And because that is how happening now, borrowing has now become even more expensive. You've got the Bank of England raising inflation to try and stem off a lot of the other, shall we say, economic consequences. So you've now got a government that has said, we are going to engage in all this tax cuts, first of all, and engage in full-on trickle-down economics. We're going to cut the tax for the top earners, and somehow this money trickles down. But time and time again, you've seen that's not what happens. And a lot of people, what you've seen, Michael Mayo, good morning to you from Jutland in Denmark. Good morning to you. From what other economists have seen, Loki's children, good morning to you as well. From what we've seen from a lot of other economists talking about this, is that we're seeing that the Trussonomics is essentially trying to complete Margaret Thatcher's revolution and go full-on Reaganomics. But the big problem is a lot of people have said, first of all, we're not America. Our currency is not as strong as the dollar. It is not a main reserve currency. We haven't got the type of productivity America has. We haven't got the type of industrial base America has. The financial markets, even though, the London is sort of famed for its, financial center, it's still not as strong as, the New York Stock Exchange. So they're doing all these things because they, quote, worked in another country. But we're not that country. And as I often say to people, sometimes you can compare countries, but sometimes other things happen in other countries and they don't work that way. No country is a one-to-one parallel with each other. And this is gonna end in complete disaster. I really can't see how this works, because the government and Katang and trusts have both said we're going to engage in more borrowing, but borrowing is now more expensive to the government, and they've just, the Conservatives always used to be, complaining about, the deficit. Oh my God, we've got to get the deficit under control. What about, our deficit? Oh my God. Well, now let it rip. Who cares about the deficit? Just borrow like there's no tomorrow. And the problem is, as a lot of people and economists have pointed out, this is not sustainable. This is not sustainable at all. And one of the things I've been sort of saying very recently is, if we get into trouble, who's going to come and save the sterling? No one. Europe isn't going to come and help. America's not going to come and help. Exactly, Pretty Bird. Who will loan you any money then? Exactly. We're entering into an incredibly dangerous time where essentially the government has gone, yeah, we're going to get growth, but we don't know when that growth is going to come. And if you saw on Twitter yesterday, I shared a bit of a scene from a select committee. And one of the guys on that select committee went, it's shocking in 2022 that this is not adult thinking to think that something will just turn up. El Supremo, I keep on saying that Britain is more and more ending up like Italy. Yeah, I think we are. It's okay, we'll just print more money. Thing is, even that will reach a limit. This insane ideas that they've come across, this is it, and no one can. You know, every economist out there is shocked at just what's going on. Even I'm like, they've gone and done it. This is it. What are we to think of a government that's just gone and done something that's so let me say it, uneconomically sound, that they are literally going to damage the economy. Even Katang has said that yes, there is going to be damage, but don't worry, guys. As you know, one of my favorite phrases, they'll be jammed tomorrow. and that's really how you can sum up the budget. Yeah, guys, we've done all this. Don't worry. It'll be fine tomorrow. And a lot of people were saying, especially in response to it, this is an economic gamble. And it really is an economic gamble. Yep, God bless Ukraine. Yep, this will hurt. This will indeed hurt a lot. And especially when we're going into a winter, I think is going to be as bad as this. Yeah, it's going to be bad. It is going to be bad. And you've got a lot of trouble on the back benches already brewing. Already brewing. You know, you've got the northern Tories, let's just not even focus on all these different factions. Let's just focus on the red wall Tories. So to those of you who don't know, might not be familiar with this term, just, you know, if you're coming into this late, what do we mean when we talk red wall Tory? Well, a red wall Tory at the moment is a Tory who took one of the traditionally had been true Labour seats that had never even changed hands in years, maybe in some cases since that seat had been created. So now you know what a red wall Tory is. They have been worried ever since in 2019. They do not want to be a one-term MP. They want, you know, at least a couple of terms under the belt. They don't want to have it for one term and then lose it. Well, nothing of what was said today will play well in these red wall seats, because none of this financial assistance or these tax cuts really go to aid the red wall. Not only that, there was no mention of levelling up. Not one. Now, I think what will happen is, we've talked about before, these special economic zones will become what gets referred to as levelling up. But even then, there are big concerns about these, because in a lot of these areas, they are basically going to be handed over to companies who are going to get massive tax cuts that could even see local councils denied gathering their own income, as they very much do from businesses, because there are business rates. We don't know yet if these businesses in these special economic zones are going to be exempt from these business rates. Now, if that happens, you're going to get a lot of councils losing a lot of money. And it's not just that, there's a ton of other stuff they could lose out on as well. But also, we're seeing planning restrictions being relaxed. Now, to what extent? That is, of course, the first degree of how relaxed these planning restrictions are going to hurt. But they will be able to override the local council on these things. So if in one of these special economic zones, someone says, I'm going to build a new road, or I'm going to, shall we say, start fracking, there is nothing, absolutely nothing, a local council can do to stop it. Even if they were to go into the council chambers and say, we are not going to allow this, and vote. I am actually very quite pleased. There was talk of one of the local Barnsley councillors who said that he wanted to put forward a bill in Barnsley to basically say, yeah, we're going to block fracking in Barnsley. We aren't going to accept it. Now, of course, the government will, overturn it because, if it's a special economic zone or if it's fracking, well, the government said, yeah, local decision making doesn't matter. So that's not going to play well at all in the Red Wall, because fracking up here, very, very controversial. There are a lot of anti-frack groups up in Yorkshire who have been very, very much dormant for a couple of years, waiting to see what would happen with this. And to no one's surprise, they've all become very, very active. And I'm so glad, because the first thing that they've done, many of them have decided to do, is write to their MPs or email their MPs. And as you know, I am a massive advocate of doing that. So make no mistake, there are going to be a lot, and I mean a lot, of shall we say, some very angry and upset emails headed to the MPs' inboxes of those areas. And even, and as bizarre as this to say, Green Tories. So these are Tories who, they're still Tories, but at least they understand the need for net zero, and can see the big economic case for net zero. They now seem to be realizing that they actually have maybe a bit more power than they initially thought. So it will be very interesting to see if they start to group together and start to exert some power and start to cause trouble for Theresa May. That will be very, very interesting if that starts to happen. But it's not just that as well. It's the lowering of planning regulations as well. Oh, pardon me. We've seen that planning regulations before were a massive, massive concern in, if you remember the by-election in, I think it was Amersham, in the Blue Wall, where the Lib Dems had that massive victory. Well, what was the main concern, if you can cast your minds back to that by-election when we were covering it? What was the main concern of a lot of those locals? It was the lowering of planning restrictions. So the Tories are in, I think, for an absolute thrashing. What they're doing, no one wants it. Oh, Reagan Elite, good morning to you. Oh, but yeah, I can foresee a big U-turn on fracking. Even this is already technically a U-turn anyway from Truss. I can see us going a completely 360 U-turn on this. Because this is not going to be popular. This is absolutely not going to be popular. And I think you've got a lot of backbench rebellions now brewing. Not only over what's been announced in the budget, but these lowering of planning restrictions, the fracking, so much stuff that, as we've said before, even in sort of the Labour Party, where we've got a wide selection of people, that are on the left, be they sort of, centre lefties all the way to the socialist communist section that we have sort of in the Labour Party, that does exist in the Conservatives as well. And remember, you've got this right-wing libertarian faction that have taken over the Conservative Party. And even though a lot of people, quote, voted for Liz Truss in this, as we covered before when we got those results, there were a lot of people in the Tory party who didn't vote. And yeah, Chthonic says that right. Yeah, she didn't. Yeah, she's prepared not to be popular. But as I said earlier this week in one of our Good Morning Shorts, popular prime ministers don't tend to last long, and there's historical precedent for them not lasting long. So we've already heard. I think it was a Labour advisor came out and said they think that Truss will be gone by March. Because I think they're going to have such big trouble come this winter. And such, economic crises. Yeah, it's... just don't know what to say sometimes, I know some people have said, oh yeah, sometimes you just make a face, but what can you say when a government has just come out and done something so economically bad that everyone in the country, even economists, are like going, we don't know what you've just done. Why would you do this? So lost for words sometimes is I think the correct response. And I think we'll see very quickly the effects of this budget. Yeah, El Supremo. It's like watching a car crash in slow motion. Exactly. I think this is the best way to describe it. I think you are right. It is a car crash in slow motion. And what's worse is, the entire British public is in the back seat going, what are we going to do? Oh, Retrofly, good morning to you. It boggles the mind. It really does. But going back to what we said about Preston's statement about this being this budget being presented as this is the true form of Brexit, because this is what the Brexiteers have been complaining about for years, saying, oh, this isn't a true Brexit. You're You're not taking advantage of the true Brexit opportunities. And yet, now, we'll see if they actually start to say, oh yes, these are the true Brexit opportunities or not. But this will actually show whether or not Brexit has worked out. And I warn you now. Nope, Cathode G, thank you very much. Yeah, cheaper super chats though. That's very true. Yeah. That is very true. If the pound does start to go down, yeah, it is far cheaper for all my European and non-UK viewers to super chat. That's very true. I hadn't thought of that. But yes, thank you very much, Cathode G. Thank you very much for all your support. Oh, and I think that we will start to see this Brexit or not, and I think that this is the opportunity where we as rejoiners, you know, are us who are still sort of, you know, pro EU, to go, well, okay, this is Brexit, guys. All these things, all these Brexiteers, when they've been talking about Brexit, this is what they mean. So it is an advantage to start pointing out to people that, yes, you were really lied to in 2016, because would you have voted? Would you have voted for Brexit knowing that this is what they actually meant by Brexit? I really think this is an opportunity for that. Oh, what else was I going to say? Damn it, I had another thought as well. I've forgotten it. Oh, well, never mind. Oh. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if that happens a lot either. I think you are going to see a lot of, shall we say, sales and moving about of money. In fact, that was the other thing as well that was announced, that I think I did a video on as well this week, about the fact that we're getting the sunset clause on a lot of EU laws and regulations by the end of December, the 31st of December 2023. We are going to see that sunset clause. And we are going to have to go and start fighting huge battles, because it's not just environmental stuff that's up for the chopping block in this sunset clause. It's things like workers' rights, the Working Time Directive. There's a ton of EU legislation that we need to really, really start ringing the bell about and keeping on the books, because if we don't, you could very, very quickly find yourself going into work one day with no, working time directive, and your boss turning around and saying, yeah, you're going to work overtime all this week. And you've got no pushback, because there is no limit, of course, to what companies can say how long you can work for. And of course, they'll justify it as saying, oh, don't worry, you're getting paid overtime. But is that going to improve productivity? No, absolutely not. But that's what it will be sold as. It will be sold as a boost to productivity and giving workers more freedom. So that's something, and definitely a fight, we've got to have with all these regulations now. And the big problem is the fact that you've got probably one of the biggest tearing up of legislature in UK history. And what else is the government doing? Well, they're also shrinking the size of Whitehall departments, and they're cutting budgets of Whitehall departments. And as I made very clear in that video, that's part of the plan, because they do not want to have the conversation about regulations, because you have to have, if you're going to have a conversation about regulations, then you have to have a conversation about why a lot of those regulations exist in the first place. And if you have that conversation, well, all of a sudden, a lot, I mean a whole lot of these regulations suddenly start to make sense. Because why would you get rid of sort of a regulation that protects the environment or stops a company from pumping out, nitrates into rivers? I think a lot of people would be very, very obvious and frustrated that we're about to get rid of a ton of laws like that. But that is the same for a ton of regulations stretching through to workers' rights, consumer rights, environmental protections, you name it. But that is what is on the chopping block. And that sunset clause is impossible. Essentially, ministers have given 15 months, I think it roughly works out to, 15 months to go over hundreds of thousands of laws and legislature on the books before they pass it over. And it is just impossible. It is physically impossible to go through them all in that amount of time. And it is being done like that exactly for that purpose, because they know that, yes, some of this will get hauled up. They won't get rid of 100%, of course, of this legislation, all these regulations, but that doesn't matter, because they will be able to get rid of at least maybe 60 to 70% of this legislation, just of the amount of legislation that's going through. That's the whole point of putting a sunset clause in. It's physically impossible to do it. And of course, very well timed to do before a general election. That way, a Tory, a Labour Party or Lib Dems can't win and basically say, oh, this sunset clause, we're going to get rid of it. Mithril, by the way, don't worry about the tassels in the ponies' manes and tails. It's just the way that seeds are spread; they fall out over time. I agree, but when there's, when the tail is like completely full and the mane is full, I don't think it can be that comfortable for the ponies, to be honest. And when you've got a pony that literally has like almost like an Elvis, exaggerated, quiff on their head in the form of those cones, then yeah, that can't be too comfortable for them. But yeah, unfortunately, these ponies don't seem to be very well looked after. But yeah, but anyway, yeah. So anyway, Jay Clink, good morning to you. Did you miss the tragic stuff? Yes, we've been talking about that all this morning. Of course, none of it's very good. You can say that in the least. It's, well, very worrying, shall we say, for that. Morning. So yeah, going to the conference. Yes, I will be going to Ireland's conference in a couple of weeks' time. I've booked my ticket, booked my hotel, and now I need to book my flight. So we might be doing a good morning walk, maybe in Dublin, maybe in a couple of weeks' time. I don't know if I'll be able to do a good morning walk next week because I'm going to be down in Northampton for a wedding, but I'll see. I'll see what I can do. I'm sure we'll do something. I don't know what we'll do, but we'll do something. But yeah, yeah, things aren't good. Things aren't good. The TDLR, for those who have joined us about the budget, essentially the government is going to cut taxes, but borrow more. Your wedding, no, not my wedding, another wedding. I know. These are all 2020 weddings, by the way. These are all weddings that are meant to happen in 2020 that have been pushed forward continuously. So yeah, it's insane. What conference? It's the JCI Ireland conference over in Dublin. So I'm going to be going over there to Dublin. Not the Labour annual one. I did actually try to see if I can get to it, but I couldn't get to it. At least I couldn't work out how to do it because it's not open to visitors. But anyway, yes. But anyway, as always, thank you very much for everyone for joining me today on today's Good Morning Walk. It's absolutely been fantastic seeing you all today. Please do remember to hit that like and share button on your way out. Like I say, it's always fantastic. And if you are new to the channel, do hit the subscribe button as well. Like I say, we do these walks sort of once a week on the regular when we can. I've also started doing Good Morning Shorts as well in the morning. Just little quick news blasts about stuff that's going on. So watch out for those in the morning. We've got Patreon page down below as well. There's also the one-off donation link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can buy me coffee. There's also the YouTube thank you link as well, which is sort of the same to that. There's also the YouTube subscription one called the Pony Club, where Scothonic has just shown you can get all sorts of perks, emojis, and all sorts of stuff. And of course, I do a weekly video for all Patreons and Pony Club members, so make sure you watch those. And of course, as always, thank you very much, as always, for coming along and watching. And go out, enjoy your weekend, have an absolutely fun one. As always can say, if you can't be safe, at least be sensible. As always, have a fun weekend, and we'll see you all very soon for another Good Morning Walk.